A thunderhead loomed over Verdancia's rolling hills, swallowing the late sun in bruised clouds. Barefoot on the cold stone floor of her cottage, Mirelle strained to ignore the storm. The low rumble shook her bones, but her hands never stilled at the loom. Her tapestries kept hunger away. Even now, when buyers' voices faltered at rumors of creatures in the woods, and silver had vanished from the village purse. Tonight, the clatter of her shuttle was joined by something else, a whisper worn thin by distance and fear. Mirelle frowned and checked the door. Nothing, only wind. She returned to the loom and her heart gave a startled leap. The old tapestry she was mending now shimmered. 100 tiny threads pulsed, unwinding a sleeping scene of the village square into something new. Men in black armor spilled down the cobbles. The sky split open, leaking darkness that snaked toward every doorway. Mirelle's own face, pale with terror, flickered in the woven crowd. Mirelle staggered backward, shivering. "Grandmother's tales," she whispered, "but they were just stories." A sudden banging at the door jolted her from her daze. She snatched a spindle for protection and cracked it open. On her stoop, rain dripping from the broad shoulders of a stranger, stood a tattered knight. The crest on his battered cloak matched none Mirelle knew, shape of a sleeping dragon, threadbare but proud. His eyes burned with weary desperation. "Please," he said, voice rough as gravel, "I need sanctuary, for the sake of all in Verdancia." Mirelle hesitated but remembered the tapestry. The knight's face was there, standing at her shoulder. "Come in," she said, voice trembling, "but you'll need to tell me everything you know about fate and darkness and why the sky is tearing itself apart." The knight's gaze darted to her loom. "You saw it too, then? The visions?" A streak of lightning lit up the village below. Somewhere distant, a fox's yelp echoed, a note of warning in the rising night. Fate, Mirelle realized, was shifting around her, weaving her into a pattern she'd never chosen. "Shut the door," she whispered. "If stories are waking up, we'll need every thread we can find." The cottage felt smaller. Shadows pressed thick against honeyed lamplight. Mirelle's hands shook as she ladled tea for the stranger. Rivulets of water streaked the knight's battered armor, pooling at his feet. He took the mug with a nod, eyes flicking between her face and the tapestry. "You know about the threads?" Mirelle asked, voice uncertain but growing bolder. He sipped. "Not much, only that the tapestry is old magic, older than any scroll. And that darkness you saw, it's spilling through the cracks between stories the villagers pretend never existed." Mirelle straightened, fighting her fear. "Who are you?" The knight hesitated. "Sir Cedrian of the Ashen Orders. I served Verdancia's court, until my warnings turned me into an exile. They scoffed at the first sightings, shadow stags in the wild orchards, stone giants on snowy ridges. Then the tapestries started whispering, just like yours." Suddenly, a chorus of yips pulled them to the window. The stormlight danced eerily, revealing a russet shape, an enormous fox, its tail shifting like smoke. Mirelle gasped as fox and shadow blurred, one moment fur and fang, next a flickering witchlight shape. "A spirit," Mirelle breathed. "Not just any," Cedrian said, leaning closer. "That's Lysa, a fox spirit, and a trickster if the old tales hold true." They hurried outside, cold rain stinging their faces. Lysa's fox eyes gleamed, and incredibly her voice shimmered across the air. "So you've glimpsed the tangle of midnight threads. The balance is tipping. Dreams are waking, your tapestry calls, weaver. And you, knight, your blade's needed, exile or not." Mirelle glanced uncertainly between Cedrian and Lysa. "What must we do?" Lysa's shape solidified, 9 tails gleaming like silken pennants. "Journey with me to the waking glade. There the veil between magic and mortal is thinnest. With moonrise, a choice must be made, and only those who dare the midnight threads can hope to mend the weave." The thunder rolled again, and for the first time, Mirelle's fear became resolve. Destiny had chosen her, a weaver, instead of a hero. She glanced at her tapestry, now coiling with silver threads and shadowy warnings. "I'll go," she managed, voice strong. "If fate is unwinding, then let's see if I can stitch it back together." Cedrian drew his cloak tighter, lips twisting into a wry smile. "I suppose exile is better with allies. Lead us, fox spirit." Above them, the storm abated. The moon, pale and uncertain, peeked through the clouds, as if watching to see who would rise to meet the unraveling night. By dawn, Yarrow Hollow already felt like another life. Mirelle stood at the edge of the village, bag slung over her shoulder and the tapestry cradled against her heart. The air was heavy, every bird call edged with tension, every breeze laced with magic's strange hum. Footsteps squelched on rain-soaked grass as Cedrian, armored and alert, led the way beyond the last thatched roof. "You truly mean to bring that tapestry?" Cedrian asked, glancing at the unraveling fabric. "I have to," Mirelle replied. "It's the only map we have, however strange." Lysa shifted from fox to woman with a ripple of pale blue light. Her eyes, even in human form, glimmered. The path ahead bends sharply. Threads knot and snarl before the waking glade. We'll pass through the hollowing forest. It's not as empty as it seems. "All the more reason to keep moving," Cedrian muttered. "Monsters linger where stories are thickest." Before they dove beneath the moss-draped trees, Mirelle paused. Her gaze fell on a young girl peeking from behind a fence. "Stories keep us safe," she whispered, repeating her grandmother's words. "But sometimes the story needs a new ending." As they entered the woods, shadows deepened. Trees arched like watchful giants, and knotted roots snagged their boots. Whispers flitted between the trunks, half-heard warnings. An arrow of dread prickled Mirelle's skin. A flicker caught her eye. Something moved, a shape stitched from leaves and fog. Mirelle stiffened. "Did you see that?" Cedrian drew his sword. "Keep your wits about you, even the air here lies." Then a low growl echoed. From between two twisted oaks, a hulking shadow surged forth, an ancient wolf, its fur tangled with midnight vines, eyes burning violet. It lunged, maw yawning wide. Cedrian leapt, blade flashing, while Lysa darted forward, shifting mid-stride. Mirelle clutched the tapestry, heart hammering. "Use the threads," Lysa shouted, voice somewhere between growl and words. "Weave fate, Mirelle!" Mirelle's trembling fingers found the midnight blue yarn. She closed her eyes, willing her courage to bloom. The tapestry's vision shifted, Cedrian's blade catching starlight, Lysa's shape blurring, the wolf entangled by glowing cords. Weaver spun from hope and fear. She wove, her fear transforming into resolve, imagining the wolf's fury softened. Silver light burst from the loom. The wolf staggered, wrapped in a net of light and shadow, violence drained into rest. It whimpered and shrank into mist, a ghostly sigh trailing through the trees. The silence was broken only by heavy breathing. "How?" Cedrian gasped, blade lowered. Lysa grinned, fangs showing. "You're learning, Mirelle. But this was only the first knot in the forest. Every step, the darkness pulls harder. Can you keep weaving when the vision grows darker still?" Mirelle swallowed, her hands no longer shaking. "I'll try. For Verdancia. For all of us. No story is written alone." Above, the sunlight faltered, and the path into the heart of the forest beckoned, a tapestry of danger, hope, and midnight power still unwinding ahead. The forest darkened, swallowing Mirelle, Cedrian, and Lysa in a haze of shifting green and blue. Strange flowers bloomed in the gloom, pulsing quietly like the slow beat of a monster's heart. The tapestry under Mirelle's arm tingled, threads prickling with warning. Cedrian paused, glancing skyward through a tangle of leaves. "This road twists too easily. Haven't we passed that split trunk before? The place feels wrong." Lysa patted ahead, fur bristling. "It's the glamour. The hollowing forest rewrites itself, trapping travelers who lose their sense of self." She shot a sideways look at Mirelle. "Whatever you do, don't forget who you are. Even the smallest fear here can become real if you believe in it." They pressed forward, but soon the path twisted again, and a low fog curled around their feet. Mirelle shivered. In that fog, her mind filled with longing, her grandmother's voice, gentle and steady, whispering comfort. She blinked. Ahead, a faint silhouette appeared, her grandmother, weaving by lantern light. Mirelle gasped, stepping toward the vision. Cedrian's voice snapped her back, sharp as flint. "Mirelle, don't!" The vision fractured, the grandmother's face darkening, then twisting into something greedy and hollow-eyed. Mirelle staggered backward in horror. Lysa bared her teeth, muttering, "Glamour feeds on hope and grief. It cannot steal memories you refuse to give." Mirelle gripped the tapestry tightly, focusing on the real threads beneath her fingers. She reached deep, looking for her earliest lessons. One wrong stitch could unravel everything, but even mistakes held lessons. Drawing courage from this, Mirelle plucked a single shimmer thread from the tapestry and wove it into the fog at her feet. Light cut a path through the gloom, burning away the illusion. Cedrian drew a relieved breath. "You're proving hardier than you look, Weaver." She managed a shaky smile. "I'm scared, but I haven't forgotten who I am. Not yet." With Mirelle guiding by the glowing thread, they pressed deeper into the wood. The path thinned, and the glamour fought them at every step, showing Cedrian visions of his lost honor, Lysa her kin fading into star sparks. Yet each time, Mirelle's thread of blazed brighter, stubbornly real against the creeping deceit. Finally, the trees split, to reveal a tranquil pool crowned by moonflowers. Lysa stopped, voice hushed. The waking glade. We've broken the glamour's hold. This place is as real as any dream. The tapestry in Mirelle's arms stirred, new threads weaving a vision of what was to come, 3 standing at the water's edge, and a shadow, rising from the depths, hungering to claim their hopes for its own. Mirelle's heart beat faster, but her grip on the tapestry was sure. Here mind and fate and memory met, and the biggest test of her courage was about to begin. Night spilled silver onto the waking glade. Mirelle hesitated at the water's edge, every sense alive to the hush at the heart of the forest. Cedrian's armor gleamed softly, and even battle-scarred Lysa seemed oddly peaceful. But under that silence, a tension grew, like something waiting to breathe. The tapestry vibrated in Mirelle's arms, threads unraveling and reweaving in frantic patterns. She looked down, startled to see herself woven there with Cedrian and Lysa, but behind them, a long shadow rose from the pool, stitched from ink and starfall. A ripple broke the surface. A shape, barely seen, eyes like coals, many-armed and shifting, glided toward the bank. Its voice scraped like knives drawn on stone. You who carry the loom of prophecy, do you come to mend or to claim? Cedrian stepped forward, defiant. We come for neither. We would barter only for peace. Verdancia must not fall to shadow. The being's laugh was dark and patient. Bartering is for mortals. Only a gift freely given will restore the balance. Each of you holds a thread. What will you surrender for the weave? Lysa bristled, tails flaring. And if nothing is given? Then the darkness drowns your realm and dreams twist forever. Choose. An aching hush followed. Mirelle pulled her gaze from the spirit's drowning eyes. When I was a child, my grandmother told me every error was just a new pattern waiting for courage. If mending the weave demands something dear, then I offer my heart's memory. Let Verdancia live in my place, even if I am forgotten. Lysa spat. Self-sacrifice is no true gift. Give hope, not helplessness. She stepped forward, fox and woman, voice trembling. I give my freedom. I will bind myself to mortal fate, losing spirit's shape for the sake of this realm. They looked to Cedrian. He hesitated, pride and shame at war in his eyes. Take my honor, such as remains. Let the darkness have my regret if it spares the living. Mirelle tightly held the tapestry, feeling threads burning, binding, singing with sadness and hope. The spirit hovered, terrible and beautiful. 3 sacrifices, 3 truths, but none can be given alone. Only together can your gifts mend what is broken. The phantom's arms brushed the tapestry, inky touch sending patterns flaring. Across lake and land, the threads shimmered and caught, weaving new futures, new wounds and hopes into the heart of Verdancia's story. Dim moonlight flared to brilliant dawn. Mirelle, Cedrian, and Lysa stood changed, their gifts not lost but shared. Mirelle felt memories ache, Lysa's binding, Cedrian's nameless grief, but also, for an instant, the fierce joy of a new pattern begun. All 3 gazed into the tapestry's shifting surface, uncertain what price they had paid, or if they had truly succeeded at all. The first light of dawn shimmered strangely as Mirelle, Cedrian, and Lysa left the waking glade. Every blade of grass seemed spun from glass, every bird call echoed, impossibly distant. As they crossed the boundary of the enchanted clearing, Mirelle clutched her tapestry. The cost of their offering weighed on her like a cloak woven from ache and hope. Her fondest memories blurred at the edges, both precious and faint. Cedrian walked with a new uncertainty. Has anything changed? Lysa's tales, now only 3, not 9, dragged behind her. The veil thinned, but the darkness knows we've meddled. The balance is fragile. We must find the fate spindle at the Starspire if Verdancia is to survive. Starspire? Mirelle echoed, voice raw. She tried to recall stories about the mountain, but only fragments surfaced. A citadel where magic was tangled and fate could be rewoven by the bravest hands. A hush had fallen over the landscape. The 3 pressed onward, reaching the edge of the hollowing forest just as warning bells tolled from the distant village. Grief wrung Mirelle's heart. Smoke coiled from rooftops and distant monstrous silhouettes, creatures of story now made flesh, moved along the horizon. Cedrian's jaw clenched. We'll never reach Starspire if the darkness overtakes the villages. Mirelle, can your threads slow it? Mirelle shook, her hands numb. I'll try. Plunging trembling fingers into the tapestry, she found threads of cloud and starlight and began to weave. Each pass of the shuttle set her memories flickering, faces and laughter just out of reach, but she focused on hope, on the promise of healing woven beneath her sorrow. The wind itself shimmered as she wove barriers of light along the village border. The shadows recoiled, snarling with wordless rage, but the barrier held, for now. Lysa nudged Mirelle gently. You're stronger than you believe, but the cost grows heavier with every tapestry you change. Mirelle's voice faltered. How do I keep giving when there's so little left? Cedrian placed a steady hand on her shoulder. You endure. Like any hero, you keep weaving because others cannot. Verdancia has no one else. For a moment, Mirelle felt pride, a thread of courage stitched through the sorrow. Her pattern was changing. She was more than a weaver, more than any village story. She had become the loom holding fate's midnight threads together. As the trio journeyed onward, the first rays of morning cast their shadows ahead, a promise that, even at the edge of despair, hope could still be rewoven. But the Starspire's peak loomed in the far distance, a needle poised to pierce the very heart of destiny. They traveled under a brittle sky, the looming Starspire a dagger of stone cutting through the gray. Mirelle felt the tapestry pulse faintly within her pack, as if guiding her feet. The journey was harsh. Fields lay ruined where creatures had passed, and burnt-out homes whispered of lives hurriedly abandoned. Each day, Mirelle's weaving grew harder. Her fingertips ached and memories slipped like mist, faces fading, names lost to the shadows. Whenever doubt crept in, Cedrian's steady presence and Lysa's sly hope steadied her resolve. They took shelter beneath a fallen willow one night, the embers of their fire barely warming against a creeping chill. Lysa, curled close to the flames, watched Mirelle struggle with her threads. Rest, Cedrian urged. You'll lose yourself if you keep giving. Mirelle shook her head. We're close, I can feel it. The tapestry says the darkest knot waits at Starspire's foot. A sudden shriek shattered the quiet. Shadows slithered from the darkness. Creatures forged from fear, their forms fractured like torn fabric. One fixed Mirelle with icy eyes, whispering in 1,000 stolen voices. What will you forget next, Dreamweaver? Cedrian leapt to defend her, blade singing through the night. Lysa flashed into fox shape, biting and snarling, keeping the terrors at bay. But their numbers grew, crawling and clinging, feeding on Mirelle's exhaustion. Desperate, Mirelle dug into her pack for the tapestry. In its shifting threads she glimpsed a bolt of gold, bright with hope not yet lost. I am more than my memories, she shouted, voice trembling but strong. I am the one who weaves the next day. She hurled the tapestry's golden thread across the battlefield. Light erupted, not blinding but warm and gentle, threading through friend and foe alike. The nightmare creatures recoiled in agony, dissolving into mist at sunrise, while Cedrian and Lysa sagged with relief. The cost seared Mirelle's heart. She could barely remember the lullabies her grandmother once sang. Yet in their place grew something fierce, love for Cedrian and Lysa, a hope spun from friendship, not nostalgia. They pressed on, battered but unbroken, until rocks and brambles crowded the path. Before them, the shadow of Starspire rose so high it seemed to swallow the sun. Lysa nudged Mirelle. The threads are thinnest here. At the peak, fate can break or be remade. Cedrian cleaned his blade, holding it toward the sky. We climb together, or not at all. Mirelle squared her shoulders. She was no longer the timid weaver of stories. She was ready to face the heart of darkness and claim a new pattern for Verdancia. And above, in the highest storm clouds curling around Starspire, something watched and waited. The climb began at dawn. Starspire's slopes rose steep and merciless, the wind carving secrets into their bones. Mirelle braced herself against the biting cold, her tapestry bundled safely inside her cloak. Every step dragged at her strength, but new determination burned in her heart. Cedrian led the way, guiding them between treacherous rocks and thorny brush. His battered armor gleamed silver and blue in the morning gloom, a beacon of hope. Lysa, reduced to 3 wavering tails, shifted easily between fox and human, silent but ever watchful. They encountered echoes of old magic, tattered banners fluttering from stone outcrops whispering warnings. A gnarled bridge twisted over a ravine, mists curling below. Mirelle hesitated, feeling the tapestry pulse with unease. "This bridge wasn't here in any story I know," she muttered. "There are stories even spirits forget," Lysa replied, voice low. Fate twists fiercest near its breaking point. Crossing the bridge, a new vision overtook Mirelle, a world where the darkness had already won. Verdancia smothered under storm clouds, villagers wandering hollow-eyed through ruined fields. She stumbled, seized by doubt and exhaustion. Sidrian caught her arm. "Don't trust what you see. Your power lies in what you choose to weave, not what these shadows show." Mirelle's fingers fumbled for her tapestry. She felt for the golden thread, the thread of new hope, spun from the love and courage she'd claimed along the journey. Her friends' faces shimmered there, Cedrian's stubborn faith and Lysa's sly care. At the far edge of the bridge, a hooded figure barred their way. Its shadow billowed, darker than midnight. "You seek to climb higher?" it sneered. "You, a forgotten weaver? An exiled knight? A spirit diminished?" Cedrian bristled, but Mirelle stepped forward. "We are more than what darkness calls us. I've remade myself from every loss. I've learned to weave hope at every edge of despair." The figure laughed, wind scraping through its cloak. "Then prove your worth. Abandon what little you have left, and perhaps the peak will let you pass." Mirelle trembled, feeling the ache of each memory already lost. Then Cedrian's rough hand covered hers. "Or perhaps sacrifice is not surrender, but defiance." Lysa chimed in, "We give only what we choose, not what the dark takes." Bracing herself, Mirelle spun the last of her hope into the tapestry. "We pass because we endure together," she stated, voice clearer than the wind. A surge of light pulsed through their trio, scattering the shadow. The bridge behind them crumbled, leaving only the climb ahead. Breathless, they crossed onto the final path. Before them, the Star Spire's temple doors loomed, carved with ancient runes, waiting to reveal the truth of fate's midnight threads. Inside, the final test would await, and behind those doors, the future of Verdancia hung by a single, trembling thread. Mirelle, Cedrian, and Lysa stood on the threshold of the Star Spire's highest temple. The doors, covered in runes older than legend, quivered at their approach. The tapestry nestled in Mirelle's arms hummed with tension, each thread vibrating wildly, as if dreading what lay within. Mirelle pressed her palm to the ancient wood. The doors parted with a thunderous groan, revealing a chamber filled with swirling shadows and pinpricks of starry light. In the center, atop a dais of carved blackstone, loomed the fate spindle, a massive loom fashioned from bone and crystal, aglow with unearthly silver. Shadows poured from its unfinished weave, reaching hungrily for the newcomers. A voice boomed from all directions, deep and ancient as time. "You who seek to mend what is torn, tread carefully. Each choice unravels 1,000 others. Will you claim the spindle for your desires, or weave for the world?" Cedrian drew his sword, blade trembling but unyielding. "We weave for Verdancia, all its people and dreams, not for power or revenge." Lysa, her voice shaky but still sly, answered, "No trick, no bargain, only hope, freely spun by a mortal's hand." Mirelle, her heart a knot of fear, approached the fate spindle. The tapestry's final threads unraveled at her touch, becoming spectral strands of memory, sacrifice, and longing. The shadows writhed and screamed, shapeless forms pleading, "Trade hope for certainty, weave only your happiest memories. Restore what was lost and let darkness take the rest." Mirelle shook, on the verge of succumbing. "I want to remember everything, the laughter, the warmth, even the pain. But fate is not made of comfort alone. I will weave a future Verdancia can grow into, not a perfect yesterday." Rays of light burrowed through the swirling shadows as she took up the spindle. Cedrian and Lysa flanked her, their hands resting over her own. Together, they cast thread after thread onto the waiting loom. Sorrow, joy, pride, regret, friendship, defiance. The shadows fought harder, desperate to twist the pattern. "You are too fragile, too haunted by loss." But Cedrian's voice rang out. "No, vulnerability is our greatest power. Our wounds give birth to hope." Threads snapped, the spindle shuddering. Reality itself seemed to buckle around the heroes as the unfinished weave took form. Faces of loved ones flickered in spectral light. Mirelle, on the edge of tears, kept her focus. "I am a weaver. My fate is what I choose, and today I choose a dawn where darkness and hope live side by side. Verdancia's story is not over, not if I have breath to weave." The fate spindle spun faster, silver and night unraveling and rejoining. The chamber shuddered. A single strand, black as the deepest midnight and gold as sunlit hope, beckoned for the final knot. But at that very moment, a monstrous shadow, formed from every surrendered fear and lost memory, rose above, poised to crush them all. Mirelle's courage and the fate of an entire realm would be tested one last time. The monstrous shadow towered over Mirelle, Cedrian, and Lysa, a living storm of every fear, mistake, and choice not taken. Its many eyes gleamed with bitterness, and every breath it took threatened to smother the spindle's newborn pattern. Mirelle's hands shook, the tapestry's final black and gold thread gleaming in her grip. "What do we do?" Cedrian whispered, stance uncertain but unbroken. Lysa's eyes narrowed, her form flickering with the last of her foxfire. "The darkness is made from what you've given up, Mirelle. It only wins if you believe those parts are gone forever." The shadow surged closer, chilling wind tearing at their clothes. "You can have it all back," it seethed, voice echoing with her grandmother's warmth, her lost laughter, her simplest comforts. "Forget hope and pain. Let me take the burden. Let the old stories return." Temptation flooded Mirelle's heart. She saw herself once more a child, safe and small, her story already written. But she looked at Cedrian, all scars and steadfast loyalty, and at Lysa, diminished but unyielding, and she remembered the patterns she had woven from her own hardship. "No," Mirelle said softly but surely, "I will not undo my journey. I have lost, yes, but what I have found is worth every cost. The future must include both light and shadow. Only then is it truly ours." She let the final midnight gold strand pass through her fingers. Cedrian and Lysa, hands entwined with hers, helped anchor it in place. As Mirelle wove the thread into the fate spindle, the darkness screamed. Not in anger, but in sudden understanding. With a final wrench, she knotted the thread. The spindle whirled, casting out light and shadow equally across Verdancia below. The monstrous figure cracked and scattered, dissolving into memories, not erased but returned. Lost hopes became seeds for tomorrow. Past sorrows shifted into gentle rain, nourishing new tales to blossom. Outside, dawn ignited over the forests and villages. The world shimmered, stories now running side by side with everyday life. Fox spirits roamed with children, brave knights taught kindness rather than conquest, and every home carried a thread of wonder. Mirelle stumbled from the temple, tears streaking her cheeks. Cedrian steadying her, Lysa warm and delighted. She realized the tapestry she once carried was now inside her. Every loss, every joy, every changed thread. "We did it?" Cedrian asked quietly, awe in his voice. "We wove a new dawn," Mirelle replied, "one that belongs to everyone, mythical and mortal, light and dark." Lysa grinned, tails resplendent. "Never trust a fox, they say, but who better to guard the balance?" The trio looked out over a renewed Verdancia, the weight of destiny replaced by possibility. For even as the loom of midnight threads faded from mortal sight, Mirelle understood her greatest weaving was ever forward. So long as there were hands to spin and hearts to hope, every ending was merely the start of another story. And in that immortal dawning, Verdancia flourished, forever changed, by those who dared to grasp the midnight threads of fate.